And here we are. Welcome, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff Lives. And by tradition now, which has been going on for quite some time with my little break last week, Thursday night trio with Professor Darrell Hamamoto and investigative journalist George Webb and myself. And I'm going to try to be quiet today and listen to these two gentlemen because I've been on vacation and I have not got a clue what's going on in the world. So
you're the lucky one.
Oh, well, let's. Well, I'm just going to throw it open to you guys now. I might kibitz a little bit.
Great. Well, I brought a visitor for us.
Ooh.
This is his name's Dazak the Friendly Ferret. I want to be warm and fuzzy today with my little ferret. Get out of here.
A ferret fondler.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Osprey is the natural enemy of the ferret. And I think the ferrets will run and hide.
Yeah, I think
from
so.
The wrath of the osprey.
I love that.
Yeah. Eek. Yeah.
But John, here's something I just wanted to introduce very quickly. I don't want to really spending time on it, but I came across this book and Kathy Sue was the person who turned me on to it because she knows I'm into bastardy and buggery and mayhem and serial killers. But this guy, Steve Hodel, his father, Dr. George Hodel, medical doctor and surgeon, and the person that he says is responsible for the killing of Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia, 1947, the famous killing right there, dismemberment, surgical dismemberment. He was in Japan from 1950s for the next 40 years, and he was doing intelligence work there. And I just had some sort of sneaking suspicion that he might have some role, large or small, in the McDuff saga. He's a mystery person. And he made his fame there. He became a multimillionaire. He was already a medical doctor, quite prominent. So anyway, I just wanted to alert you to that so that, some of these leads come from strange places. Look what happened with Doug Valentine, right?
Yeah.
I think this could be a possibility. He was there when Lee Harvey Oswald was there at Atsugi, outside of Tokyo. So, and he was in intelligence. So I think a lot of that traffic has crossed his desk. And George, speaking of traffic, I just wanted to, on behalf of all the people in the live chat and on behalf of all humanity, I wanted to thank you. There was a forensic tour de force on Tuesday with Mr. Chris Hunter, because you have the empirical evidence. It's right there.
Yeah.
Right. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's right there. It's the IP. And you connect Sina Bavari, right, Nordic, with Blackwater Health. So like John, I would like to spend most of the time sort of unpacking that relationship. But before that, I want to ask John, as an attorney, because we seem to be reach an impasse so far as appealing to, quote unquote, authorities, whether it be the Supreme Court or law enforcement or the Congress. I wonder if we as citizens can perhaps build a case, bundle all this empirical information, interpretive, all that material, and then bring it forth to, not, first of all, we'll win the hearts and minds of the public, right, in the court of public opinion. And then the people who are the officially constituted representatives of the people of America will have to act on it. They'll be forced to, just like in the case of this serial killing. Steve Hodel, who was an investigator with the LAPD for over 25 years, put the case together. He brought it independently. Right? He'd retired. He brought it to the district attorney of Los Angeles, and he could do nothing but to reopen the case, despite official objections.
That's the key, isn't it? To have a swell of public support, so that the powers that be have to do something, and that's to unlock the secret of how to say something that people, the mass media types platform. How do we get one? that I've been asking that question, for at least 4 years during the whole Trump administration. Why doesn't Trump start a station? Why isn't there something that can compete with this narrative, this colossal fraud that's been perpetrated upon the American people? And I'll just give you one bit of hope that I got today. I went to visit my doctor.
Gun your engine if you're a drug dealer for ramen.
Okay, that must have been Rom going by with this.
That's out of my house. I live in a ghetto, so you're going to hear some
But
noise.
And it was just for a physical. And after it was all over, we were just sitting and chatting. And he said, "Do you still have your show on YouTube?" I said, "Oh yeah, yeah." He said, "Didn't it get dumped? Didn't it get?" And I said, "Yeah, it got, but we put it back up, and they dump us again. We'll put it back up again. It's going to keep going." And then he looked at me and he said, "I just don't understand this COVID." Now this is a frontline healthcare provider saying that to me. I won't give his name. It's all very just conversational between us. But I offer that as a glimmer of hope, that if people that are in the front lines that are saying to themselves, "Hey, you've got what, 100 million people vaccinated. You've got another 20 or 30 million people that are immune because they've already had and survived the virus. With all of those people in the country, how can it possibly be necessary to keep wearing masks all the time?"
Yeah.
And I said, he says, "I don't understand it." I said, that's one of the most intelligent things anybody can say about this. I don't understand it. But not that I want to try to thresh it out tonight, but I do have to on the tail end of that. I have to say the best way to understand it is to read George Webb. I mean, George Webb has written it, and I'm struggling right now to write a few pages a day, and there it is, sprayed in Dutch. I've got mine over here, and guys, I tell you, if you haven't got it, you got to get it. It is going to get banned. So get one right now, and study it and read it and let your friends know what's going on, because there's no other source except for what people that have not only the ability to amass this information, but the willingness to share it, the technical ability to share it, and the drive to push through barrier after barrier after barrier to just keep on going. And now the latest thing, George, is you've started your own publishing business. Is it Neighborhood News' publishing business? Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Well, I'll get over to the latest book. Here's the latest incarnation, 8.5 by 11 now.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
It's yours. That's your copy. I'll sign that for you.
Oh, George, thank you.
And Andy's going to be coming over to
oh, this is great,
to basically be able to sign all these and print these, and we're going to set up the print shop right over here. But
can I just steal this and put my name on it so I don't have to write a book then?
Yeah, go ahead. John, you can just put your addendum,
Okay.
Right? The orange book. You just put the orange book right back here.
All right. Well,
yeah, and I wrote. I've got 20 some books now, and I never wanted to be an author, but this is one of the latest ones is How to Be a Citizen Journalist, told through 2 stories. And I just got to use the binder. I was learning the binder a little bit, so I'm getting better. The McDuff books came out better. But to John's point about common sense, when dealing with health crises or pandemics, and the first thing I always say is, why not focus on the super spreader events? If you're talking about a pandemic, wouldn't it make sense to focus on the super spreader events? And if you look at the medical literature, the one big one is Wuhan, the games, October 15th, but there's others. There's a super spreader cult in South Korea. No one will talk about that super spreader event. There is the ski lodges in Austria and Italy, where we had a super spreader event. And let's do the old pins in the map. That's how we solved, typhoid before we knew anything about germs and pathogens, just with pins in a map and seeing where there was clusters. And let's take that approach. I take an approach, and I talked about this, 3 years ago, which Dr. Snow, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When you want to figure out, what's killing people in London, you just put pins in a map, and it all came around this one little fountain, one little pump that was pumping all this putrid water. And that's basically how they figured typhoid out. I believe it was either typhoid or something similar to that. So I try to take that historical example where kind of epidemiology starts and then apply it to coronavirus 19. It's just obvious. Why wouldn't you do the same kind of epidemiology? Why wouldn't you talk about the same super spreader events? And I think that can be applied again and again and again. And this is what, to Dr. Hamamoto's point, this is what opens up that kind of common sense thinking, is what opens up people's demand to say, hey, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense. We're going to open this thing up. And this is what happened with Kennedy thing. I saw Mark Lane come to my high school when I was 12 years old, and he was talking about a magic bullet that stopped in the air and moved over this way and then went this way and then, and then came out perfect. And then it weighed more than when it got shot. And, his tour of the United States opened up the assassination hearings in the House. It was 12 years too late, but at least that opened up a lot of what we know today, all the Oswald stuff, being CIA and all this stuff. So I guess those are my hopeful examples. And as soon as you said Japan, Dr. Hamamoto, I thought, oh my goodness, not Unit 731 again. So
this guy here was a boy genius. He had an IQ 1 point higher than Albert Einstein. He could very well have implemented a lot of all kinds of nefarious programs all at once. Dr. George Hodel. John, your physician is asking questions like millions of other people around the world. That's excellent. That's good. I think what I want to do now, moving into the next phase, since that job has been done, George's great work, your work as well, John, has forced people to confront these common sense questions. I think the next phase now is to sow doubt in the minds of people who are complicit with this program and didn't really realize that they were aiding and abetting this larger program. People, for example, who work at the lower echelon of Nordic Health, right? Or people at the universities. And toward that end, I've come up with a strategy of sending them articles, right? Research articles that they respect and understand, right? Research articles on gain of function research, just like that, and put on top as a cover sheet the Nuremberg Code. And then send them the packet, a PDF to all these people, developing an email list of all the scientists at all the Research One institutions, all the ag schools, all the lower echelon regulatory agencies, without any comment, just the Nuremberg Code on top of these 3 or 4 articles, gain of function research, and let them draw their own conclusions. We'll get into their heads that way. They're going to start doubting what their charge is. And they're going to start consuming the people above them. So anyway, that's my form of intellectual guerrilla warfare.
Pretty smart.
You like it?
Reminds me of one Whistleblower Sunday where there was a guy who came down there with a fiddle and started playing behind us on Whistleblower Sunday. But yeah, I do think you do have to kind of do the old, I can't remember the Patrick, St. Patrick with his snakes to get the snakes out of the holes and start talking. And I try to do that by printing the article in Spray It in Dutch. And then in this article, I make the pictures really big so you can see, hey, there's the person who gets all of the proposals. You put a face on it. Here's the person who gets all the proposals for the World Health Organization, and her name begins with a B and ends in an I. Here's the guy who ran NATO spy school in Oberammergau for Kissinger. It begins with a B and ends in an I. So I don't, and I love it when it's 8.5 by 11.
It's not Bon Jovi.
It's not. It's not Benelli.
But they are living on a prayer, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love it. So that's the idea: is just make it big and make it obvious, and print it out.
Gentlemen, why don't we take them on their word? They call it the World Health Organization, right? So why don't we go global in bringing other people into the discussion? And maybe this is where Andy can help us out here from the technical standpoint. I propose that we have a conference call with Chinese Foreign Minister Li Jian.
Wow, great idea.
Live, and we'll have Lena Poo translate for us. How do you like that? How do you like that? We're going to go to China and say, hey, listen, you have some reservations, and like 500,000 of your countrymen hit George's website all at once. And then the State Department came down on them like a ton of bricks. But so how about that for sure? Because we need to move into the solutions phase now. Because as of Tuesday, George, you got them dead to rights.
Yeah, I love that idea. And again, I put his picture in here so we can send him his picture. And there's Ramuzzi. Here's another guy we can have online, who said that there was a breakout in Italy. This is the guy from Milan in the summer of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And so where did that come from? So, and here's General Bouchard. I love these big pictures and these Leroy Neiman stylized. I got somebody to help me with the Leroy Neiman of the Neimanizing of the photographs. So there's Li Jian right here.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
He's also in NATO's little shop of viral horrors. So I think we should ring him up.
I agree. And what you said is anywhere along the rungs, along the ladder, any kind of phone call, an official phone call to the State Department of China, the Foreign Ministry, would be good, because it's going to make news. We made a little video that did 650,000 views in a couple hours before it was banned. So I love that idea. Let's do it in California on the 14th. Yeah,
we can start. Yeah, and of course we're going to put it on speakerphone and record it all, right?
Oh,
we'll go with call the ambassador or the embassy in San Francisco. I think they have one in San Francisco, and start from there, because this is public diplomacy.
That's the one. The consulate in San Francisco is the one that had the driver driving Miss Daisy.
Yes, for Nancy Pelosi, is it?
Night for 20 years, he was stealing secrets, right? And she didn't know. So. Yeah, the Chinese embassy. I love that. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Guerrilla warfare.
Peter Duke will love that idea as well. It's like, what are you doing messing around with books? Go right to the Hollywood moment, put up the Trump sign on Hollywood Boulevard,
Cinematically, I think it'll work. It's got the visuals, got the sound. The whole suspense aspect is built into the scenario. So
getting back to your Nuremberg thing, that was another theme that came up for our upcoming California trip. Speaking of John and the law of doing a Nuremberg trial for all these folks, now that we do have this evidence in, so that whole week might be just Nuremberg trials, and we were going to do different indictments, Fauci and then Birx and then Redfield. We might skip them, but Tedros as a war criminal certainly will come up. Just go right down the line. And have a Nuremberg trial, and this is being called for from a lot of different quarters right now.
Yeah, well, I have heard that internationally, nation by nation, there are these citizen councils that are being formed. And they're not going to go through the officially government channels, because they've been shown to be corrupt and bankrupt, right, and incapable really of functioning as they're supposed to do. So there are all these different. This is what I'm hearing. There are all these different councils in the English world. Who knows what's going on in the Spanish-speaking world, or in China or India, or in Pashtun or Farsi. But I think there's a global. By the way, I just got that movie recently, coincidentally. I'm sorry, that's the documentary. I got the movie, the documentary, the feature film, Judgment at Nuremberg, starring Spencer Tracy.
And Richard,
I think it was directed by Stanley. That's recommended. All this material here, ladies and gentlemen, look at the documentary. Also, look at this film. These are the types of films that were made back then, where they were trying to grapple with real issues.
Right. Well, and I remember Richard Widmark, and then a young Montgomery Cliff was the defense. He did a good job too as the defense counsel.
And Maximilian Schell as the German attorney.
Yeah,
excellent.
So yeah, we have McDuff, so we're going to win. So that's all there's to it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make a point which I think should be repeated often and everywhere, and that is that the Nuremberg Tribunal, they passed these Nuremberg protocols that tell you, as far as medically, you cannot experiment on people as guinea pigs. That was one of the biggest complaints against the Nazis, was that they were just using, the horrible things that they did. And so out of that, we ended up with these principles that everybody signed up to, including the United States, of course, because these really are our principles. This is who we think we are. We don't do that. We just don't do it. And anybody that does it is violating the basic rules of humanity. So now, in that context, our powers that be, from the media to the government to the big corporations, have all been basically psychologically forcing people into the idea that they should take an experimental substance into their bodies. And even that I won't object to. But what I do object to is when places like Johns Hopkins come out and say, you cannot matriculate at my university unless you have taken the experimental cocktail into your body. And that is a blatant violation of the Nuremberg Code.
Absolutely. And all those administrators at those universities, they get their email address and they're going to get a little PDF packet with the Nuremberg Code right on top. It's going to have gain of function research and the seminal articles there without any sort of commentary from us. Let them draw their own conclusions so they'll own it. All these people are going to be held accountable and responsible for this. We do, however, depend upon the presence, the leadership of strong individuals, very much in the tradition of Mr. Thomas O'Loughlin. And that is people of the mettle of someone like Telford Taylor, right, who presided over the Nuremberg trials, and then the people who were also presided at the Tokyo trials as well. It is driven by individuals, but we have to reach out and find these individuals, even within government or even in private life. It's not Donald Barr. We know that. We've already done our vetting process. We know who the fakers are, right? But there are people there who are on that level who were kept out because of him. We need to draft them to be our voice. People of the statue of a Telford Taylor. Or recently, he recently passed away, Ramsey Clark, former Attorney General. Those people are there. See, this is what we've forgotten. We become hammered so much by these smendricks, as Aaron calls them. They're worse than that. I mean, they're serious. I mean, they're really serious stuff. But they're not. They're fake. They're real. They're posers, right? But there are people at that level who are ready for that position, for that job, for that assignment. But we have to find them and we have to draft them. Maybe one of them is Governor Rick DeSantis.
Yeah, I was thinking Jim Jordan. DeSantis would be
yes.
good.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some other folks in the academic world that have kind of a objectivity. I think it's important to be objective. It's sort of like when they were trying to clean up baseball, they went to a guy, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, he's going to be right down the middle. He's going to call it, balls and strikes.
Or A. Bartlett Giamatti. Remember him, Bartlett?
It's going to be called Giamatti ball next year. We can't have baseball anymore. It's going to be Giamatti ball. That's the Saturday Night Live routine that they did after he died. Yeah, I think there are people out there that could do it. I'm trying to think of somebody outside of politics, just away from the left, right. So that's where my mind went in the literary realm of a writer. I think Stephen Kinzer would be a great mind of somebody who wrote a book about all this kind of this dark shadow on John's dad's life with this poisoner in chief, who could come in and be seen by both sides as somebody who's going to be a fair arbiter.
Yeah.
Who do you nominate, John?
Me? I think Stephen Kinzer would be great. I don't know. I mean, the hard thing is to find people that are not in a position that they would have to say no. And I think you might ask Stephen Kinzer, but he's he works with Boston Globe. He has publishers. He has lots of stuff on the plate, but it's not just time. I think it's also he has to be careful. People in that position. But I highly respect his work. He's 69. He's just a little older than me, and he'd be great. I'll tell you, I've been thinking about in the back of my mind while y'all have been talking about the folks I've met at the Schiller Institute, and they are some very, very astonishingly well educated and up to date people there. One of them is named Dennis Speed, and he'll be my guest tomorrow night. He is not only is he somebody that has studied philosophy and all of the liberal arts, and he also is a great advocate of using music as a way to communicate, and that good music is going to give a culture some glue. It can help hold a culture together. At least it was used that way historically when music was used positively to bring people together. In my own mind, I say, well, bravo, because what really music has been so torn and distorted and put into little categories to try to irritate some people, while appealing to somebody else's different instincts, and that irritates other people. And the way it's been pushed at us from so many different directions, I think we would benefit greatly from integrating what Dennis Speed is saying. But also, he is, I think, a potential leader and somebody that is respected by many people around the world. He's been with them almost since the beginning. So somebody like him, or perhaps just speak to Schiller Institute and say, who would you suggest? And by the way, while we're speaking of that, they of course have some major contacts in China and are very much involved in trying to support the Chinese in defending against the right-wing attacks from people like Pompeo and and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm thinking of the same Dennis Speed, I think he's an aficionado of classical music.
Yes.
Yeah. If that's the so we may lose the rappers, but that's a small segment. We'd have to worry. But no, I've listened to Dennis on your show, John, and he's been very knowledgeable about, especially the stuff happening in Western China with the Uyghurs and so forth.
That was other guys. Dennis hasn't been on yet. He'll be on tomorrow for the first time. But Mike Billington spoke about that. Richard Black, a number of those guys. They've been to China, and while it sounds, like they're looking through rose-colored glasses a lot of the time, the bottom line is they're on the same side that we are in terms of, hey, this is not something that you can start a war with China over. Let's dig deeper. Let's find out who really is behind it, and that's why I say follow the W.
Well, thanks. I would say let's maybe follow the O here then too. Let me throw a guy in from film I've had a couple of brushes with, which is Oliver Stone. He was the one who kind of put a lightning rod to the JFK thing with his movie, and maybe there's the source of the corona or a documentary like that. His documentary Gravitas could bring some attention. If you look at, he tried to do that with Ukraine with Lee Stranahan, and it was kind of a muted response because it was only really one. It was kind of a quick thing that he did. It wasn't like the history of the Western world that he did, but maybe a filmmaker too. I don't think we'll see Spielberg anytime soon, but
no, Oliver Stone is an excellent choice. I think, John, the idea that someone drawn from the arts community is perfect for that. Let's say, I don't know who the poet laureate of the United States is, but someone on, imagine if a contemporary, an analog to, let's say, a Robert Frost was presiding over it. Talk about gravitas. But Oliver Stone's a great choice because, and I think people overseas, particularly in China or in Asia, would see him as an honest broker because he is the only American filmmaker, the only American director that told the story of the Vietnam War through the perspective of the Vietnamese people. Even the great Stanley Kubrick couldn't do that with Full Metal Jacket. That's like a cartoon of the Vietnam War. Even the Good Morning Vietnam, as good as it was about Robin Williams. But Oliver Stone has that connection. I've seen him in documentaries on Japanese television. He goes to Okinawa. He goes to South Korea. I don't know if he's been to China, but he has that lived experience and that sensibility. And I think he'd be acceptable to people on the left liberal side as well. So he would be an excellent choice. Let's draft him. Mr. Oliver Stone, your country calls. And I'll help you with the research and whatever it is that you require.
We're going to be out in LA, so Spielberg's welcome too. So
he's not invited.
No, he's not invited.
Steven Spielberg, that is. Oliver Stone is, yeah.
Right. I was just saying that the chat, I'm sure, has great ideas about who it could be as well.
Okay.
And Yoichi Shimatsu may be the guy to broker the other side of the Japanese side, maybe broker through Japan because that's kind of a natural link.
Yeah.
Or South Korea. I don't think we're going to get Harry Harris to do it though with his super spreader.
Well, that's Hirohito's illegitimate grandson. Yeah. But no, in Japan, there's an organization called the Article 9 Group. And that's the part of the U.S., by the way, inspired constitution that says we're not going to be involved in wars anymore. That's part of the Japanese post-war constitution. That's Article 9. That would be a good, so far as I know, organization to bring into this discussion.
And let's leave Article 5 with NATO out, even though we activated Article 5. We had on our show a Congresswoman bragging that because of the insurrection, they were able to invoke Article 5.
So, now you've opened that, and I heard your story, but as you know, my head's been other places. So let's open that up a little bit. What is Article 5? What is the significance of what the Congresswoman said?
Article 5 is an attack on one, is an attack on all. So, and
this is NATO, right?
NATO, yeah. And if you want to bring up Article 5, Andy, and then the extension that was made to Article 5 was a domestic attack. So if you have a George Floyd type attack and you have a cop that's guilty of a racial incident, that could be considered a terrorism attack by the government against the people, and you can invoke and bring in NATO soldiers. You might want to make it big, Andy. The text is too small, but
and that's what's going on in Minnesota, I guess.
Well, that, yeah, if you want to make it big, it says the parties agree that armed against one is or more of them in Europe is
or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently, they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them exercises the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized by Article 51 of the Charter, will assist the party or parties so attacked by taking forthwith, individually and in concert with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. So this is why the cargo ships loaded with Chinese soldiers are going to show up.
Well, or every nation of NATO,
I mean, all your friends from Pakistan will be, landing in Salisbury, Maryland.
And they'll all be rocking not the orange beanies, but the powder blue helmets.
Yeah, I think
what military has in history has ever worn powder blue?
Yeah, I think that the ones that are here are just being activated. I think the cells that are here that are just being activated, but I agree. There probably won't be any like MacArthur's Landing with powder blue helmets. But if you go to Tuesday, if you go to Tuesday's show, the last clip of the show ends with this congresswoman making this declaration, and
what's her name, by the way? I didn't catch that when you talked about it.
It'll probably be in the chat, Andy. If you could just go to the very end of the show, the last clip of Tuesday's show. And she's a California congresswoman, I believe, and of course 55 of them. I haven't been up there in a while.
There was some text, and it was highlighted in red. I remember that from just seeing the show myself, and yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is this the foot in the door for foreign troops to come into this country and start occupying our cities and transportation systems and things.
Now, John, I know you're not a constitutional attorney, but from what you've heard so far, do you think this qualifies as an act of treason against the United States of America?
Well, I can't say yet. It's too early for me to say, but I could certainly put together a case if I was going to say I want to try that case, and I think I have enough facts to at least get something filed. I would expect that a court would dismiss it without letting me get to a jury at this point, because I don't have, the literally the smoking gun. I mean, what I'm looking for here is actual violent acts against the
I don't know why we haven't had violence
against
in
the government.
Tries, but maybe we'll
Here's
just
the clip.
for your final today.
Don't stop. It's always low and usually day.
I think so. And done every instant.
Go ahead, Andy.
Is not always the full answer, but it's having what we call agencies. It's having influence. It's having the ability to change, to mold, to be certain that families are protected, that the country can thrive. And that's one of the things that NATO cares about. We triggered Article 5. We triggered Article 5.
Wow.
There it is. We triggered Article 5.
Congresswoman Davis, Susan Davis from San Diego. So, Congresswoman, we're coming to your and we're actually going to be in her district now that I remember. I think Point Loma is in Sandra Davis's district, and we're going to be calling the Chinese embassy in Washington D.C. and the consulate in San Francisco, and also the Chinese Foreign Ministry. So we'd like to invite you to come over to Point Loma.
We'll put you on speakerphone.
You could explain to your which Chinese troops are going to come over, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, well, the Bidens probably could tell you too.
They got the BlackBerry, so you.
But yeah, that's a good news source for us. We can definitely interview Congress lady and understand, what exactly what's coming at us. I'm serious. I mean, that looked to me like the slippery slope that is going to be used by these folks once they feel that they have the confidence that they can get away with it. And I mean, my God, I don't think they can get away with it right now. I think that the people that showed up to support President Trump and the incredible amount of attention being given to this right now, until they get our guns, they're not going to be able to do it. I mean, if they figured out some way to disarm America, then yeah, what could we do?
Well, I just wanted to add to this that Dr. Hamamoto's talked about the autonomous zones. So I've never said this will be a generalized attack on the United States. It will always be targeted at the autonomous zones. So all you need is a trigger event in the autonomous zone. So we had the George Floyd in Minnesota. We had the thing in Portland. We've had the thing in Seattle with the BRAC or whatever that thing with the chip or the check or the
Taz. Remember Taz?
The Taz, yeah.
Temporary autonomous zones.
Yep.
There was a guy named Chaz
who
in
was
the Taz.
In the CHOP, yeah.
Okay.
But the key piece here is there's 85 of these different things that have fusion centers, and you don't do it all at once. You do it like in a random event, but you roll up the cities, and Washington is the green zone. David Petraeus's plan is green zoning. He doesn't care about the hinterlands. Same thing happened basically in Vietnam too for a while with the strategic hamlet program. Go for all the major cities.
So the Congress of the United States is now encased in a strategic hamlet.
Yeah, that was Colby's old program was the strategic.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is all the whole story of Vietnam and Doug Valentine's great work, and going back to Bright and Shining Live by Halberstam. That all of this that strategic hamlet is creepy. I mean, it is super creepy. You take all the people off the land and put them inside of a corral. It's with barbed wire and stuff, so that the idea is where you're going to keep the bad guys out, right? We're keeping the bad guys out, but you're imprisoning the actual real people that you're trying to protect.
Right.
You're theoretically saving their country, but in reality destroying it.
We must destroy the village to save it. Wasn't that one of the quotes?
That was one of the quotes. Folks that aren't from our generation might not have heard that.
Now, George, you've mentioned, cited in any number of contexts the Erasmus Institute, right? And the Boers. Wasn't it the Boers that were the first ones to use the strategic? They didn't call it that, but they used the strategic hamlet concept.
The concentration camp is
the Boer War. Yeah,
this is a point of importance here. The Boers are the victims. The British were the perpetrators.
That's correct.
The British were the ones that had the concentration camp system.
Yeah, this
in
is
the Boer War.
This is your Milner. This is Rhodes's buddy Milner, the one with the kindergarten, and the little boys and all of that creepy stuff that they seem to all like to do.
Well, George uses the analogy of the green zone. I have one that's more comprehensive and more sinister. It's the term that they like to call the dark site. So America in general is becoming one giant dark site, right? They workshopped that on the war on terror, post 9/11, setting up this network of dark sites. Well, now we're seeing the blowback of the dark site concept, where the whole country itself becomes one dark site.
Yeah, I'm going to need to look that one up because you got one by me there. They did call the one for the 11-foot fence with the concertina wire. That was called Operation Green Zone, believe it or not.
Oh no!
So and then you can see vaccine passports coming in right after this to get inside the green zone, right? So this is what Sibel Edmonds is saying is no vaccine passports. But as soon as you, like you said, John, with you keep people out of the colleges they want to go to with Johns Hopkins, you keep them out of the schools, the jobs they want. And then all of a sudden you have the World War II with the Nazis, with the ghettos. At that point, I don't know if it's a Boer ghetto, it's a sort of a good ghetto or not, but it is a form of control that we saw in Iraq. The green zoning of Iraq is the precursor here, to a lesser extent Afghanistan, because it was so mountainous. But
well, the stores and the shops and the restaurants supposedly are going to be reopening in the state of California. And what's really going to be interesting to see as it unfolds is whether you will be allowed back into the restaurants and the stores and public spaces with or without the badge. I think they might say, well, we're opening it up, but now you have to have your bio badge.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's a violation of the Nuremberg Code.
Yeah. Well,
Oliver Stone, your country needs you.
and my a slight attempt at trying to paint this in a picture is to just put it on the book cover, like you said, Doctor, with no explanation, just a title. She wears no yellow badge. Sibel wears no yellow badge, and it's and she's the Anne Frank of vaccine badges. And I don't want to go into the ghetto because I know I'm never going to come out. And you have to take these historical things that people know, a Diary of Anne Frank, and go, she looks like Sibel Edmonds. Okay, I get it. And we just keep having to, I think we just keep having to retell these tales of history that have been forgotten.
And you've made a great contact with Sibel Edmonds, and this thing is just growing like an incredible network of truth seekers. And while we all have our different viewpoints, we all have different facets of the same big thing that we're looking at. I think we all have the goodwill to work together, and because without the truth, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't have truth, then when we have nothing, that is the ultimate dark site to me, is a place where you just will never know what is true. Your history is gone, your future is unknown, and the way that things work is a complete mystery. That is the future they've painted out for humanity, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. But you mentioned Sibel Edmonds. What a great resource she would be, because you know what? I want to hear what Farsi speakers have to say about what's happening. Why do I have to go through Anderson Cooper or even whoever's up there on Fox News or the New York Times? I want to hear these people in their voices and their language. We have enough people here in this country, as we're diverse enough with it. They can do the translation or Espanol, whatever language. I want to hear from the people of the world. What are their perceptions? That would be a really exciting teaching tool for all Americans.
Well, there was you mentioned Iran, another country with a big super spreader event 3 or 4 months before the Wuhan Games. And that was in the pilgrimage city in Iran. And the name escapes me of the pilgrimage city right now, but someone will correct me. And I'm afraid to say the name of the city because I think I'm going to get it wrong. But there was a big breakout there. Again, why wouldn't you talk about the super spreader events if you're talking about something that super spread? It just seems like a baseball game. You would talk about the things where the runs were scored or the great plays were made, and this is the same sort of thing. The inflection points, and again, that's common sense. Appeal to common sense. The Thomas Paine 42-page pamphlet, and just keep pamphleteering until they go, well, that is kind of common sense. We should pick this up.
Common sense is the most important asset that we have as a nation, as a culture. It's the ultimate arbiter of truth, where we have to find the truth. If you don't have 100% certainty on something, but nevertheless you still got to act, you've got to do something, then what do you rely on? You rely on your common sense, and that common sense is not just something that you're born with. That's something that you gain from being a part of a community, a part of a state or a city or a town or a culture or religion, a family, whatever it is, you have gained a sense of what truth is and how to find it. And if you don't have access to the building blocks of common sense, which is what they're trying to do, is to take away from pull the rug out from under our feet so that we don't know how to stand. This is what they're doing. And the problem of education is huge. I sympathize with teachers right now because I know the burden on them is horrific. But I sympathize even more with the students. And this is the people of this country have got to say something. We've got to have this tribunal that you're talking about, or let's just call it a conference. But get the facts out.
Yeah, and if you really want to rack up your book report, remember back when we did book reports, we got gold stars for every book.
Oh yeah.
They'd put up a gold star by your name for every book. With my 50 to 100 page books, your kids can rack them up. You just beat all the other kids. So just think about that when you're sorry, I had to put a plug in.
And they're really nicely printed, George.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you again for my personal copy, which I definitely want you to sign right after the show.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 3 of these, and we're going to print about 50 of these. So you're going to have a lot for your June 6th, and we're going to print them back there, so you're going to make some money.
George Webb is, unstoppable.
Right.
And thank you, George. Thank you, Professor. You guys are terrific and wonderful ideas, wonderful chat tonight. I'll be reviewing the chat after the show because I get so much out of it and I can't watch it while we're talking. Thanks again to Andy Dybala for his great work as a producer and engineer tonight, and giving us some interesting graphics to look at. I really like that one about the Dodgers. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but setting up a separate place in the baseball stadium for people who have had the vaccine. Man.
Oh no.
Talk about
this is Los Angeles Dodgers?
Yeah.
The Dodger Stadium?
And the San Diego team too.
Padres.
Oh, the Padres.
Yeah.
Wow. California. Adam Schiff is on his way here to become Attorney General, I understand. And he's going to do a solar wind, and he's going to roll up everybody who's in any way stands as the opposition, the loyal opposition to their scheme. That's Adam Schiff.
Yeah, you just say Nuremberg Code, Sieg Heil.
Yeah.
He's going to get a PDF packet full of all that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you next week. I'll see you guys tomorrow with Dennis Speed tomorrow night. And thanks again, Professor Hamamoto, George Webb. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.